Federico Stegmaier, an actor who played the groom at a fake wedding event in Buenos Aires, removed the garter of Victoria Alcorta, an actress who played the bride. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. Buenos Aires. On a Saturday night in Buenos Aires, hundreds of guests turned out for what might have been the wedding of the season. The bride and groom were all decked out. So were the witnesses, family and friends. But the altar was actually a stage. The priest's questions to the couple were not quite what one would hear in a church. The wedding rings were inflatable, the cake plastic and the Bible oversize. It was all a bit burlesque. Hundreds of paying guests were invited to the celebration. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. This was no ordinary wedding. In fact, it was no wedding at all, but a falsa boda in Spanish, or fake wedding, and a really good excuse for a party. In case there was any doubt, as the couple hired actors left the stage, colored lights flashed, the disc jockey started the music pumping, and the announcement was made to the paying guests: the wedding is fake, but the party is real. The purpose of the falsa boda is to convey joy and fun and live the happy moments related to love, without having to fall into the traditional ritual of what a marriage is, explained Nacho Bottinelli, 30, one of the organizers. Mariano Zito, playing the priest, conducted the fake wedding ceremony between Nico Leguizamon, as a groom, and Laura Montini, as a bride. The rings were inflatable and the Bible oversize. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. Mr. Bottinelli said he and some friends came up with the idea about 4 years ago while living in La Plata, a city just south of the capital. Real weddings have been on the decline in Buenos Aires, less than half of what they were about 20 years ago, as couples are simply living together or waiting longer to marry. When they do not necessarily want a traditional church ceremony. In 2014, a Pew Research survey found only 20% of Argentines went to church regularly, one of the lowest figures in the region. But Argentines still love a wedding. Mr. Bottinelli and his friends grew tired of waiting for someone in their circle of friends to marry to be able to celebrate. What if we create a fake wedding, he recalled them asking. The live music party and open bar went on all night long after the ceremony. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. A group of friends stopped by a photo booth for a souvenir picture. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. The fake wedding is telling of the social paradox of a country that remains traditional, and overwhelmingly culturally Roman Catholic, even as the divorce rate hovers around 50% and civil unions become accepted. The spoof is at once a nod to tradition and a subversion of it. It has also become a thriving business. The events are successful enough that Mr. Bottinelli and his friends now stage them in Buenos Aires about once a month, sometimes more. They have recently taken them on the road to other major Argentine cities as well as to Uruguay, with plans to expand soon to Chile, Mexico and the United States. At the events, Mr. Bottinelli explained, they can take or leave whatever they want from a typical wedding. Not surprisingly, they kept the fun parts. Over the course of the evening, which stretched until 6 a.m., there were 2 wedding rehearsals and 2 wedding ceremonies, each with an exchange of bogus vows. The actors who were the bride and groom in the first wedding became the witnesses in the second, and vice versa. Backstage, the actors changed roles and had their hair and makeup done, with special attention paid to Veronica Pacenza, 26, who played the groom's grandmother. Veronica Pacenza, who played the groom's grandmother, got her makeup done before the ceremony to make her look older than her 26 years. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. The actors rehearsed on the stage hours ahead of the ceremony. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. Soon the guests, who had each paid about $35 to attend, began to arrive. Some took souvenir photos in an inflatable booth near the entrance. Then they made their way to an open bar. The ceremony itself is short and salty rather than sweet, allowing guests to get on with the party. The entertainment includes 2 bands and a DJ. The party included live performers as well as a DJ. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. Mr. Stegmaier and Ms. Montini arriving before their fake wedding ceremony. The exchange of vows was not quite what one would hear in church. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. The ritual of placing a garter on the bride also gets a twist, with 10 single women and 10 single men from the crowd invited to also give it a try. And what wedding party would be complete without the bride tossing the bouquet? In this case, Laura Montini, 35, an actress. Not even a fake wedding celebration would be complete without the traditional tossing out of the bouquet, this one by Ms. Montini. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. A small crowd rushed forward. A euphoric woman caught it, which could only mean that she might be the next in line to get married. Or not. A couple kissed next to the fake wedding cake. Plastic, of course. Mauricio Lima for the New York Times. Palco Caris contributed, reporting from London.